Hello, my friends. Welcome to the ThePCelitist. My name is Corey Linac.
My name is Sean Freeark.
And this is a new podcast to Podbean, but we came from an extremely popular YouTube channel, which I'm sure we have millions and millions of followers who just decided not to sub, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
or
the
watch.
theory. Or watch, but they all love us.
Right. They know we're there.
Which is the point. But we decided to expand our empire to podcasting because we think our format fits more to podcasting. And if you're wondering what this show is about, it's generally just two guys having discussions about video games and the industry and kind of anything that comes down the pike, right? I mean, was that fair to say?
Strong focus on PC gaming.
Yeah, we have a strong focus on PC gaming, and
it's really kind of by adults for adults. We're not interested in engaging in fanboy wars here. This is for mostly mature and very honest discussions and commentary about all things gaming, but particularly PC gaming. And the idea behind this initially YouTube channel and now the podcast is because we just saw a void in the gaming commentary space. We didn't see a place where people like us, and we know there are many people like us, could come to have just honest discussions about PC gaming and all things that we love about it, things we want to see change. And so that was the driving force behind what we are here to do today.
A working man's intellectual discussion on video games.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. So our first subject today, I thought would be really good, is to talk about an old favorite of PC gaming, which is the adventure game. Okay? I haven't yet done this, even though the game has been out for a little while. Broken Age just came out, which was Tim Schafer's... I don't know, I think a lot of people expected it to be kind of his opus. And I have a lot of thoughts on the process of which it came out, and kind of the end product, which we only got a piece of it because they ran out of money after a Kickstarter that made way more money than they ever expected to get. And I think there's a lot of mixed results when it comes down to it, but we'll get there in a moment. First, I want to talk about the process. So, adventure gaming disappeared off the map. No one really did that many adventure games. There's a few here and there. You could find some nice adventure games, Mechanarium, and there's a few that you can find. But
Crash Bandicoot.
Not a whole lot. Adventure gaming was kind of deemed like this dead genre that, big names don't go after to do anymore. So Tim Schafer gets on Kickstarter and says, look, I'm going to do this old school adventure game. I got Ron Gilbert here, who practically invented the genre in the first place. We're going to make an old school adventure game for everyone who loved it and give us money. And they were looking for, I think, $300,000 when they first started. 400,000. Okay, so 300.
Which is what Schafer said is the minimum he thought he could make a game for.
Right. And 100,000 of that was going to the documentary of the making of the game, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then 300,000 for the actual production of it, and that was, I think Full Throttle had a budget of $1.5 million, so that gives you a sense of just how little money that is. And I think to make a mobile game now, you're expecting at least $150,000 to $200,000. So this was not a great deal of money they were shooting for.
Right. So the whole crux of the argument was that they don't have to do a startup; they already have a gaming company, and they have the talent, and they just start making an adventure game, right? They got a lot of money. I can't remember what the end point was, but they got a few $1 million. I
think it was like 3.4.
Yeah,
in the neighborhood.
Right. They got 3.4 million, and
in a month. Yeah, of course, being the Kickstarter model. But yeah,
right.
I think they passed their goal after just like 9 days or something. I'm not sure, but it was ridiculous just how quickly this thing took off. They had almost 90,000 investors. I think just under 90,000 by the time all was said and done.
Right, and they kept selling after the fact. At any point, you could have PayPal'd and donated more to the cause. Mm. Here's where things got a little rocky for me. Everyone kind of knows the story of Broken Age. That's the game that the name took eventually. And I was able to go to thanks to Adam Ames, a website we associate with called TruePCGaming.com, which we do reviews for every once in a while over there. And we invite you all to go take a listen to them. But anyway, I was able to go through Adam Ames and True PC Gaming to the GDC Next in Los Angeles. And there I got to hear Tim Schafer speak firsthand and got to meet the guy and shake his hand.
You got to touch him.
I got to touch him. Yep. And here's an interesting thing, and it bothered me at the time, but I did have, even though you said we don't try to get into fanboyism, I did have, I think, a fanboy fog around this particular title because I was so excited to see a Ron Gilbert, Tim Schafer collaboration on a game. So, he said something that kind of bothered me, and I feel like what bothered me came to fruition when I actually played the game. Is two things. That A, when he decided to make this game, he went and talked to a lot of other developers who are currently making adventure games and got a lot of varying opinions of how adventure games should have evolved. And he said that some even saw puzzles as something that gets in the way of the narrative. That if any puzzle gets in the way of the narrative, it's a problem. So the puzzle shouldn't be a stumbling block for anybody. So they have to be easy enough to keep the narrative moving. And the way he acted is that he didn't really like that idea that much because he thought, he still likes a good puzzle. But I got to tell you that it kind of bothered me because my philosophy, and a philosophy I try to spread, is that I like game developers who make games they love, right?
That they themselves want to play.
Right. That's the best thing I could say about your game. If I play your game and I get the feeling that you wanted to play this game that you made, that's really what you're shooting for.
Which we should expect from developers. I mean, musicians generally, and you hope, unless they've gone totally mainstream, you'd hope that true artists of any form make something that they themselves enjoy making and enjoy listening to. You'd hope that developers enjoy making a game that they would also like to play.
Right.
And even aside from the fact that they may have done hundreds of hours of testing on it, you'd like to think that they at least get to sit back and enjoy it from time to time.
Exactly. Now, wouldn't it feel kind of odd if you maybe say some kind of supergroup came together of band members that you like and you were excited for whatever it was they were going to create, and they said, well, when we set out to make this album, we chose a style of music and we went out to kind of ask other creators of that style of music, a style that they themselves are considered the masters of. Wouldn't you find that a little odd in the first place?
I appreciate the collaboration, but I think Gilbert and Schafer kind of have the gravitas to not really need to defer to others for input, unless they were really just trying to get a sense of, since it had been a while since they had made the game. I think, wasn't Schafer's last game Grim Fandango in '98?
Well, I mean, he's been in,
It's not like he's been a hermit and hasn't been following the industry.
No, Gilbert has been more of a hermit. In fact, he actually has a website called The Grumpy Gamer, I believe. It's a blog of his, and he's kind of a recluse. Tim Schafer has been running Double Fine, and they've been actively producing games. So he hasn't been out of the game. No pun intended.
Wow.
He hasn't been...
That's the kind of hard-hitting analysis you can expect here at the ThePCelitist.
He hasn't been out of it that long, okay? I mean, he's been making games, he just hasn't made an adventure game. But
that's right.
Okay, so that's one, and that's not a big deal. Like what you said, like do a little research on what you're about to do. You haven't been in it in a while. You haven't made an adventure game in a while. Okay. The second thing was they talked about how they were going through the evolution of adventure games and how the UI and certain interactivity within the adventure game was reduced. Like they showed a picture of an old adventure game, and there used to be this pane along the bottom that had your inventory and like all these different options that you could use, like pull and push and pick up and look at and open, close, and how through the evolution of adventure games moved that things kind of disappeared and had a more reductionist feel to it. And So he said, obviously we're trying to recreate a classic genre for a new generation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get away from some of the moorings of the old style. Now, I thought that was a little odd considering it is those who fell in love with those old style of games that are literally paying for this new game.
Mm. Yeah, don't imagine a lot of young adolescents were diving on board. It was mainly people who had enjoyed the previous work.
I would think so. I would think that you would try to make it look like an old adventure game just out of not respect, but out of
paying homage to
it, and maybe trying to use it in new ways that you didn't think of before, and playing off it, and maybe even making fun of its style at the same time.
Yeah, because if he was trying to prove, if the two of them were trying to prove that the adventure genre can still be not just kind of vibrant and enjoyable, but commercially viable, you'd think that there might be some elements of that, and certainly nostalgia is a huge selling point for a lot of games. You can make a lot of money strictly off of playing on people's nostalgia. But yeah, I probably would have guessed that you'd at least include some of the mechanics, though updated to a certain extent.
Right.
At least include them, either what you said, to either refine them a little bit, show that they could still be relevant, or kind of put them in to kind of show people kind of abruptly, wow, this is how far gaming has come, and use them in
right.
a way to kind of point out some of the just really the isn't it silly we used to think this was great sort of thing.
Right. So those are the two things that I rose questions in my mind, but I still said, hey, those are the master guys. That's Tim Schafer. That's Ron Gilbert. They know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, LucasArts can do no wrong, right?
And at the time, there was a time. They basically could do no wrong until they did.
Right.
That's basically how it works. So the game comes out, and I got it, and I played it. And I tell you, it didn't take me long to finish it. And they released it in the first section of the game, and I guess the second half is coming out later, because literally all the money they gained, they ran out during production. I don't know how they ran out of money exactly, but
maybe paying Elijah Wood to do the voice acting.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I scratch my head on. Because I don't think it really excites that many people that Elijah Wood did the main voice, I think. And I don't know. I don't know why you would go that route, and I heard a rumor that they didn't take a lot of money to do this, but I think even still, any voice actor who could do a decent job would probably do just as fine a job as Elijah Wood and take way less money. But we have no idea where all the budgetary money went. Let me just say my initial thoughts are this of the actual game. Playing the game, if the second half is the same length as the first half, I don't know where all that money went.
How long was it, the first half?
I would have to say 3 hours at best. So if this game turns out to be a 6-hour game, I don't know. I feel like a lot of emotion and time and heartache went into a 6-hour game. Which in an adventure game, if you play through an adventure game once and you know all the puzzles, you could get through it in 20 minutes. I mean, the game goes really fast once you know the puzzles. It's the time taken to figure them out. It could be a mixture of the fact that it could be the fact that I didn't think that any of the puzzles were very hard. I felt like they were pretty intuitive, that they were very linear in a way. Like, you get item A here, and then the next frame you use item A, and then in that frame you pick up item B, and I felt like in frame C you used item B. So it just seemed to follow this very quick progression, and I think in the end I was kind of disappointed that I never felt like I was stuck at a puzzle at any point. I just moved from frame to frame. Okay, that goes here. Obviously I'm supposed to use this with that. It all seemed very...
So like Portal 2.
Yeah, I mean, it moved way too quick. Now, this could have been just the fact that they didn't quite I don't know. Maybe I'm a more mature audience that I could get through it. Maybe when I was 12, Full Throttle felt harder than it actually was. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
remember when my wife played it and it was not quite the same level of difficulty as you experience? That's a different story
Well,
altogether.
well, okay. So you played Full Throttle in your adult life. Like, did the puzzles seem to be difficult, hard? Did you just seem to cakewalk through it, or how do you
The
think you felt?
puzzles, the design didn't seem very hard. The clunkiness of the control scheme seemed to be the major impediment to solving a puzzle.
Okay.
But what I have to ask you though is, with regard to the narrative, the kind of it's two different teenagers who are not in any way connected, but you can kind of switch back and forth between them, right?
Right.
And how do you feel that the puzzles played into that narrative? And also, do you think that the narrative it's appropriate for it to be kind of 3 hours so far? Did you feel rushed through some grand story, or did you feel that the story was lacking and trying to stretch across 3 hours?
Well, right now I feel that it is my it's my feeling that I didn't get that much out of the story. Like, both characters are in these interesting situations, and at the point where it gets most interesting is when the story ends. It really ends at the high point. Okay, which is pretty good because it makes me want to play the rest. But at the same time, I wasn't really enthralled. I wasn't really really into the story up to that point. Now, once here's the thing: if this is like part one of a 3-part series, I would say this is getting really good, because if part two is as good as this one ended, and part three is the climax, I'm gonna think this game is really great. If I reach the climax, like the real crux of the game, and then the rest is the end, I can't help but feel I'm going to be disappointed. And I think that's the big problem, is that after I've beaten this game, I've beaten the first section of this game, I haven't really thought about it once since I decided to do this video, which tells me that I wasn't that enthralled with it. And second, if it's the second part is the same quality as the first part, then and I know I'm going to feel really disappointed in it. So it's kind of like the jury is out right now, but I think when I first played it, I had the fanboy fog, and now that it's worn out and I've really been able to just kind of critically look at it, that I think it's a really flawed experience. And I just hope that they could kind of tie it up at the end, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a shame. I really wanted great things, because Tim Schafer as a career has kind of been this sad individual where he's always been trying to get that like really big game that kind of like hit, and made Double Fine like a huge studio. But I don't think he's ever quite hit it, and I was hoping that Broken Age would be that for him, but I don't know. I have to say personally, I don't know if anyone agrees with me out there, but I don't think it was a really great showing on their behalf. So it's kind of depressing.
When you bought it, does that entitle you to Act Two, or do you have to buy Act Two when it comes out?
Oh, it says at the end like Act 2 coming later this year, and then you'll get it. It'll just download. So we should revisit this issue again once it's out. But we should do the same thing with Thief if I get it, because that's another game that like had it's resurrected, and I'm a big fan.
I think we both know you're going to get it. You are
Yeah.
the Woodsy Lord after all.
That's right. But those are my thoughts on Broken Age. I can't wait to finish it and kind of have a complete discussion on its entirety. But I'm wondering if anyone out there has played it and agrees, disagrees. I love disagreement. I love people who throw out their opinions when they don't agree with me, because I like having that discussion. Again, you could expect more subjects like this from the PC Elitist podcast. And anything you want to say as we close up here?
No, just encourage people who are just finding out about us to check out the content we have on our YouTube channel, The PC Elitist. But we will be uploading some audio from some of those discussions, and we'll also be kind of hitting upon some of the topics that we've done because that channel's been around since mid 2011, and we have about I think 110, maybe 120 videos up there. So there's been a lot of stuff that we've covered the last couple of years. But we're looking forward to revisiting some of those in light of more recent developments in the industry. And we, as you say, we love feedback. You can email us at thepcelitist@gmail.com. If you have any specifics, you want to talk about any subjects you think you want to cover with us, we are just welcome to it. So we are looking for really establishing a great place for more mature PC gamers who want to come have fun, but also get into some honest discussions about what we love to do in our free time.
Absolutely. Can't disagree with any of it. My name is Corey Linak.
My name is Sean Freak. This is the PC Elitist signing out.